When you think of tragedy, often you think of the sadness that is brought from it. While that is true, there is also a certain beauty to it. I have 4 characters that I'm going to talk about, and if you want to see a part 2 to this, or more videos like this, then let me know down below. I have many more characters to talk about, and some of the characters in this video might surprise you. So the first character I want to talk about is probably one of the most iconic characters in the world. When you think of tragedy, that being Batman, as he's a character that honestly is defined by the tragedy he suffered as a child. As a young child, Bruce Wayne was walking through an alley with his parents after seeing a movie, when his parents are confronted with a mugger and is shot and killed. Bruce is left all alone with only his butler and father figure, Alfred. That tragedy is what leads to the beauty of Batman. Though all that he's been through, he still has the kindness to help people and even adopt others so that they don't turn out like him. The clip from Young Justice where Batman says Robin needed to bring his family's murderer to justice. Wonder Woman remarks, "So that he'd turn out like you," and all that Batman says is so that he wouldn't. That moment shows a lot about Batman. It shows that he doesn't want the son he raised to be defined by his tragedy, but instead heal from it and move forward with his life. However, as Batman, Bruce has encountered many more tragic events. With the death of Jason Todd, the death of Alfred, his own biological son Damian, Joker shooting Barbara and crippling her, among many more over all the different continuities that Batman has had. Yet he always rises above it and never lets it drag him down. And yet he never forgets any of it. He fights harder and tries his hardest to save everyone. In a simple way, his drive is founded in tragedy, but he uses it to fuel his quest, to make sure nobody ever loses their family to a mugger with a gun. There is definitely beauty in that. The next character I want to talk about is very different, and that is Isabu Takahashi from the manga Real. Takahashi is vastly different from Batman in so many ways. From the beginning of the story, Takahashi is an arrogant asshole, to put it simply. He doesn't care about anyone other than himself and is cruel to others, until one day where he's hit by a truck while on a bike. He finds himself in the hospital, alive by a sheer miracle, except there was a price to be paid for survival. He suffered damage to his spine and is paralyzed from the middle of his chest down, unable to feel anything, and he immediately goes into denial. The sudden change in his life makes him lash out at others, break down crying. The people that he considered his friends abandoned him. He even tells his own mother to go die after she does everything she can for him, working herself to exhaustion, and collapses right after. We later find out that Takahashi is from a shattered family. His father left him and his mother when he was just a child, and has been raised by his single mother for all the way up until now. He begins to shift from denial and depression when he talks to another person that's in his same situation, but it's someone that he normally wouldn't have even acknowledged if the accident didn't happen, and he starts to see things differently. The pain he goes through is very visible, and the author doesn't shy away from it. Takahashi eventually comes to terms with it and accepts his disability. The beauty is that after he accepts it, he is still determined to play basketball. He builds himself up and learns how to adjust into his role more and builds himself back up. It's such a beautiful character arc, because he doesn't just go from asshole to staying an asshole. He changes as a person. And if you haven't read Real, it definitely deserves more attention than it is currently getting. And in my opinion, it is a masterpiece, and I highly recommend it to all of you. The third character I want to talk about is Edward Elrick from Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. The loss of a parent is very hard on people. So try to imagine losing your mother as a child and being gifted with alchemy. The temptation of human transmutation, being able to bring people back to life. Wouldn't you try to bring her back to life as well? The tragedy didn't end there for Ed or his brother Alphonse. They risked everything on a dream. And for what? Two brothers experienced hell. Edward lost a leg, and Alphonse ended up losing his entire body, leading to Ed sacrificing his arm to save Al's soul and bind it to a suit of armor. Edward was filled with guilt and regret. It was one thing for him to risk his life, but he cost his little brother his entire body and had to replace it with an unfeeling metal one. How can anyone keep moving forward with that weighing on them at such a young age? When Roy Mustang gave Edward hope, it lit a fire inside of him, and he focused on one goal, and that was to get him and his brother their bodies back. Edward became the youngest state alchemist in history. He was branded as a dog of the military, a living weapon, and nothing more to a lot of people. Yet, tragedy wasn't done with the Elrick brothers yet. With a little girl named Nina Tucker, who was turned into a chimera by her father, and was later killed by Scar, along with the death of a friend, Maze Hughes. Edward felt personally responsible for both of those as well. How could a 15-year-old carry so much guilt? Yet he keeps moving forward, trying to see the truth and complete his goal, and eventually giving up his alchemy and the Brotherhood ending in order to save his brother's soul and give him his body back. The beauty in Edward's determination to keep going, despite the odds being stacked against him, is inspiring. The final character I want to talk about is probably my favorite shonen protagonist, that being Alan Walker from D. Greyman, which is a very underrated series that deserves more love. Alan Walker is known as a cursed child, thanks to a curse being put on him by his father. Alan was an orphan that was taken in and raised by a traveling clown named Mana Walker. When Mana died, Alan was desperate to bring him back, so he made a deal with the Millennium Earl and revived Mana in the form of an Akuma. And Mana cursed Alan for doing so. Alan ended up having his anti-Akuma weapon activate and was forced to kill his father. This led to years of suffering for Alan through his training and forced labor under General Cross. Yet, through it all, Alan still was a good person and had compassion for both the Akuma and their victims. He was one of the first to do the compassionate protagonist, and he does it better than 99% of them, including Tanjiro. Yet, tragedy wasn't done with him either. Alan's body is slowly turning into the 14th, which is part of the Noah clan, the main antagonist group. His body is not his own, and yet Alan still goes on despite the curses that befall him. All four of these characters have a certain charm to them in different ways, and they are characters that I do enjoy in one way or another. If this is your first time on the channel, consider subscribing if you liked the video and want to see more like it. I'll be doing a whole series where I take characters that fit into a certain theme and talk about them. If y'all want a part 2, let me know in the comments down below, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.